sound. Devo Jones with the pick six, Keanu Neal with the hard hit, getting the ball back on offense. Watch Julio Jones keep moving the sticks. Calvin really in for the score. We came back, we up 4, about to get in. Our victory stats, no coming back. We closing the door. A-T-L, blackout. A-T-L, blackout.
What's going on, football fans? It's me, Jared Clark, back again with another rendition of the Pound for Pound ATL Coaches Show. This week, I'm going to do something that I didn't necessarily want to do. I'm going to talk about a kind of a hot name. Like I said, when I set out to do this, I didn't necessarily want to talk about the hot names. I was trying to give y'all names and coaching profile of people who you might not necessarily be talking about. But people have put it in the comments, and that was something I asked y'all to do, so here we go. Without further ado, this week we're going to be talking about Brian Daboll from the Buffalo Bills. Now, he's kind of been a hot name for the work that he's been doing with Josh Allen up there in Buffalo. And let's go ahead and call it. It's pretty impressive. You know, when the Bills drafted Josh Allen, nobody was really all that high on him. It was said he was really raw. Yeah, he had a big arm. But other than that, nobody was really all that high on Josh Allen in a sense of the media circles, I guess you could say. But Brian Daboll has been able to take the raw talent of Josh Allen and turn him into a very respectable quarterback, even burdening on getting into that top 10 status. I mean, you can just look right there with the stats that I put on the page. He has went from a 52% completion rating to a 69% completion rating through through week 12 of the 2020 season. Now, obviously, that could just fall completely apart, but that kind of a jump, is really major for, rookie quarterbacks. I mean, you could see his QBR going from 49.8 to all the way up to 75. I mean, already through week 12, he has more touchdowns than he did all of last year, throwing-wise. His interception ratio is down to 1.9. I mean, he's already thrown for 3,400 yards, which is far more than he did his previous 2 seasons. So it's been really impressive to what Brian Daboll has been able to do up there in Buffalo. But Buffalo is not the only thing that makes him impressive. You can see here, he started out and has spent a lot of time in the New England Patriots organization. Started as a defensive coaching assistant, then moved over to the offensive side of the ball with the wide receivers. He coached for the quarterbacks coach for the Jets. The year they had Brett Favre, which he took, Brett Favre and turned him into a more accurate passer, which is weird to think about. I mean, Brett Favre was really considered to be a gunslinger, and Brian Daboll was able to harness that and make him an even more accurate passer. Had his completion percentages, I think, the highest of his career. Now, this is where Brian Daboll, for some people, starts to fall apart a little bit. He spent time as the Browns offensive coordinator, the Dolphins offensive coordinator, and the Chiefs offensive coordinator. And none of those stops did he have all that much success. Now, you can say that, well, he only spent 2 years with the Browns, and the Browns is a crazy organization, and if we were judging people on their job with the Browns, we never would have accepted Kyle Shanahan, right? But then he went down to Miami and didn't have a ton of success there, but he had the likes of, I think, Chad Henne as his quarterback. So I don't know if you're really wanting to be labeling success and failures off of the performance of Chad Henne. Now, you take his 1 year in Kansas City, he had a better year there depending on how you want to look at the metrics. His running game was much better. He had Jamal Charles at 1,500 yards that season with Romeo Crennel as his head coach. Everywhere he's been, he's always had a stout running game. So that's something else that I've been focusing on with these guys. One second. It's one thing I've been focusing on with these head coaching profiles that I've been doing is I want somebody who can come in and establish a run game. A lot has to do with the fact that the guy that we have now, the offensive system that we're running, is like the run game is an afterthought. And with an aging Matt Ryan going into the twilight of his career, one way to extend his career is to get a running game going. When he looked his best was 2016, and no coincidence, was one of the few times in his career he's had a solid, dependable run game. And I think if you bring in a coach that can produce that, you can either A, extend the life of Matt Ryan, or B, make the last few years of Matt Ryan, bearable to watch, so to speak, and then make the transition of a young quarterback, his best friend is a running game, right? So a guy who can produce a run game is something that definitely interests me. And that's one thing that Brian Daboll has been able to do no matter where he has coached, whether it has been Miami, where you had Reggie Bush down there for over 1,000 yards, and Brandon, what was his last name? Brandon Marshall, that's it. He had Brandon Marshall at over 1,000 yards receiving. So you had, Reggie Bush over 1,000 yards rushing and Brandon Marshall over 1,000 yards receiving, both on the same team at the same time. So his offense, one of his calling cards is he's been able to mold his offense to the talent that he has. And that is something that I'm very interested in as far as a head coach is concerned. I am looking for a guy who can, work with the talent that he has and elevate that type of play. Now, people could say that he hasn't always elevated the quarterbacks, but if you look at the quarterbacks that he's had, like I said, Chad Henne, Matt Castle, a plethora of different people with the Chicago Browns, I think Colt McCoy, none of these guys would you consider what you would want to be hanging your career on. But you take a look at what he's done with Josh Allen, and I think that speaks for itself. He has improved Josh Allen's play year in and year out. And he's been able to tailor his offense to what the team needed. And this is a quote that I pulled right here from an article that was written by, I believe, a fan site or whatever. But as you can see here, under his direction, they went 10-6, made the playoffs as a 5th seed. The offense largely revolved around, this was last year, by Frank Gore, the ageless Underwood Frank Gore, Devin Singletary, and Josh Allen. He predicates, at least last year, on the run game, which they were boasting an average of 128 yards, per game. When have we had that here in Atlanta? Like, never, right? Or at least not since Michael Turner. So that's something that really intrigues me. It intrigues me that he's been able to mold his scheme to the strength of the players that he has. And that's something that I have wanted for a really long time. He takes his scheme, he attacks the defense, and he tries, to attack the weakness a lot like what Kyle Shanahan did when we had such success there. And I think a guy like this can make life easier on, an aging Matt Ryan, and could potentially make the grooming of a new quarterback as painless as possible, depending on who we draft, obviously. Like, as far as some of his, coaching experience, something we talk about a ton, he has coached with the likes of Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. He spent time as Nick Saban's offensive coordinator, won a national title with them, won 5 Super Bowls, including the one against us, being part of the staff of the New England Patriots. So, this guy's got the pedigree. He's got the resume. He's kind of a hot name, so that's why I was a little bit hesitant about talking about him. But I think he's a guy who could come in and make the twilight of Matt Ryan's career far more enjoyable for us fans to watch, and could usher in a new age with a new quarterback, and keep that offensive success going forward. That's all I got for you. Appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all have enjoyed this one. Remember, as always, catch us on Tuesdays for our live streams. The guys, Jimmy and Mike, will do a show on Saturdays. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Drop me a line. Leave a comment underneath of who you want me to look at next. We got at least 4 more weeks of this, depending on how quick they name a head coach or go after one when the offseason commences. But that's what I got for you this week. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Devo Jones with the pick six, Keanu Neal with the hard hit, getting the ball back on offense. Watch Julio Jones keep moving the sticks. Calvin really in for the score. We came back, we up 4, about to get in. Our victory stats, no coming back. We closing the door. A-T-L, blackout.